Content modeling, although a lot of people may not realize what it is one of the most essential things when developing a new platform if what you really want to do is get your content to an audience. People are no longer coming to websites just because you made it and they have a great design. They're trying to solve problems, they're trying to answer questions, and they're usually starting with services like Google or other search engine tools. They might even be using voice searches, and they're just looking for an answer. So if you want to find new users or new visitors, you need to reach those customers with your content. And to do that, the content actually has to be understandable by other systems like Google and so on. So defining a content model means defining the types of content you want to publish. Types of content could be articles, they could be products or promotions. And then after that, you define the attributes of the types of content. Like for an article, you might have title, author, published date, and you might have content. Things like products, product name, product description, even specification, pricing information could be part of that content model. Events might have event name, event location, and so on. I'm sure you get the picture by now, but if you create that content model and it's structured, then when you make your website, that structured content can be embedded in the pages. We usually use schema.org types, and we use JSON LD, that's Google's preference, so that then these search engines can understand your content and then feature your content when people are trying to ask questions or solve problems or look for answers. So that's what a content model is, plus why it's really important to you, especially if you're building a new website. Common problems businesses face with content models is often, well, there's two problems. One is they don't understand the importance of content models, so they start building a website without one. And that leads to the second problem. They leave the content model in the hands of the website development team. And there's a good chance the website development team doesn't understand the value of a content model. What they typically value is rendering content on pages. So where you might be saying, these are events that that Google needs to understand so people can find my events when they're doing searches, the web development team might see this is a layout with a heading and a subheading and a paragraph and an image, and they might actually create structured content that is simply that: page title, page paragraph, and so on. And if that happens, it might be very convenient for the web development team. It fits the way they think, it fits the design system they created, but it doesn't then enable your site to embed structured content so that search engines and AI tools can understand what that content is and then help reach your audience with that content. So the two big mistakes or two big things people struggle with is not valuing the importance of a content model and then leaving it in the hands of a technical team that's kind of used to focusing on building the web pages or building a tool that renders web pages. So it is very important to follow some best practices when creating a content model. It's really important for a content model to be semantic. What do I mean by that? I mean that the content model reflects the meaning of the content rather than how you want to render it or how it fits a design system. For example, a semantic content model might be an event or a promotion. Those are all things that reflect the meaning of the content. A product would be another example. A product could reflect a car. Products are a type of content where you could put car in there, motorcycle in there, and it all makes sense regardless of how it's being displayed or where it's going to be used. A non-semantic content model might be something like page or landing page. Those don't reflect the meaning of that content at all. They're reflecting how you're initially going to deliver the content. So if you don't make the content model semantic, then it ends up being very difficult for that content to be reused in any other system, especially reused in the places people are looking for contents, like on social media channels and in search tools like Google and so on. So the first important best practice is keeping your content model semantic. The second important practice that I like to emphasize is keeping the content model connected. This one's a little bit more difficult to understand, but I'll compare it maybe to what a developer might do with the content model. It would fit their instincts. They recognize repeatable patterns on pages in their design system. And so they would often want to break the content model up to fit it. They might see a layout of content, and at first they see a title and a paragraph, but then they see a repeated list of links. And maybe they see, oh, here is a row, and in this row I could put a block here and a block there, and next thing you know, you have a content model that's something like page, with sections, with rows, and lots of little atomic pieces that fit inside it. That works great for a design system, but it actually causes the content to be broken up so small, I like to think of it as a subatomic content model. Conversely, if you keep that content model connected, you're making it easy to work with all the content related that belongs together in one place. So let's go, for example, back to a product content model. The content model for the product would ensure everything you need about that product is kept tightly together and easy to access. So it might mean the product, of course, has the product name, product description, product summary, but then you might have a list of specifications items for that product. Instead of making it separate reusable piece of content where each point about the specification is separate and has to be linked back together, you might try to make that content model a little broader, so you can put all the specifications together right in that product, so that when it's queried, it's easy to get it at once. When it's published, it's easy to make sure it's published together. When it's consumed by a mobile phone, it's easy to get it all in one piece, and so on. Conversely, it turns out easier for authors to author and use as well. So 2 of the best practices I recommend: keeping the content model semantic and keeping the content model connected. Some personal stories, some good, some bad, about how important a content model is. The first one, and I know I've shared this before with you guys, would be when I tried to make a content model that really reflected the design system a customer was sharing me. And I thought I made the perfect content model, but I discovered I was thinking like a developer, which I am. And so I broke that content model up in pieces that fit the design system. And then when it was time to prepare a demo of how to produce a page with this content model, I actually horrified myself. I spent a long time clicking all over the place to make lots of little pieces and then compose them back together. And in the end, I realized I did this ultimate content model because I wanted to make every little piece reusable. And then I realized no one's going to reuse any of these little pieces because each of those pieces are too small to understand and know how they should be used. There was no context connected to any piece. So I quickly realized I need to change my perspective, and I worked with a customer to revise that content model so that one piece of content that was for that page was largely easy to work with as one unit. And that helped them a lot. The authors were happier. And with that perspective, I went on to continue to try to keep content models simple. And it was really great to see an example where we had a customer who was embedding very simple schema.org data into the pages, like things like question and answer schema, fact page schema, product schema, and so on, right in the pages. And then one day when I was preparing for a presentation at a conference and I was using sample questions I thought users would be looking when they're looking for answers that credit unions provide, like what's the difference between a new construction loan and a home mortgage loan. And I saw that answer surface as a search snippet from one of our customers. It was one of the credit unions we work with. And I was like, aha, it works. Because they were able to embed structured content, I just acting like a user who didn't know anything about any of the businesses in my area was then seeing an answer from one of my customers in a search snippet on Google. So I think that's exactly what we're trying to get, and keeping those content models semantic and keeping them simple so that's easy to work with each unit of content as kind of one piece. Really, that story really demonstrates the value, the payoff for our customers. I honestly would have to say maybe Baroque classical music, because it's very systematic. There's there's a lot of detail in it. It requires rigor, but it follows patterns that are reliable. At the same time, there's an art to it to get it right. You're balancing what might work for a technology, but also what authors need, and also what the content needs for that content to be delivered to audiences.